you
Yeah.
know?
I'm just starting now. We got Mike Steckler here, and Mike, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah,
And what I'd like
absolutely.
to talk about tonight is obviously the rise and the second team in the Carolina division, third division, and your presence is going to be big for that because you're going to be coaching that. So I wanted to start by just asking you, um, uh, if I may, tell me about your involvement in street hockey in Charlotte and specifically with the CSHL.
Yeah. So first thing I got to correct you on is we're the second team, but we're not looking at it as we are any second team. We all have the same record until we start out. So, there's just a lot of pride on the guys that we chose for this team, and again, the let's put it like a respectful and a good competition with the other team from Charlotte. And we're really looking forward to accomplishing our goal, which is to go to New Jersey, right? To win Tier 3 in Raleigh and go to New Jersey. So yeah, a little bit just on really on how we found the CSHL. And I think it's a great story because you take a guy like me that's played hockey a really long time, and street hockey in the streets up north in the North Country to
Mhm.
playing youth hockey, to playing college hockey, to playing going out and playing pro hockey. That I lived in Charlotte since 1998 and really never knew about the CSHL and ball hockey until uh, really Mike Campbell, that my current neighbor, like kind of moved in, and it was right at that COVID time, right before it, and he said, "Hey, we play pickup, and there's a lot of guys that play pickup, and why don't you come down and check it out? And there's tournaments." And he was really the one that kind of pioneered it with our family as to there is this league that you can play in, and there's pickup games on Sunday. So I really kind of credit him from a standpoint of letting us know that. I mean, obviously in social media and things that we had at that time, um, it wasn't something that we were actively publicizing. It was just a bunch of guys that got together that were great guys that had developed this friendship and this love for hockey, and we're playing street hockey in the what I call the Octagon down in Waymore Park.
Mhm. You mentioned something about pro hockey, your involvement in pro hockey.
Yeah, so I played professionally from 1990. I went to Germany and played in Munich, Germany for
Oh,
4 years. So from
I didn't know
90 to
that.
94, came back, took a little bit of a year off, and then I played professionally in Utica from 94 to 98. So we
With the
were at
Devils?
that time, we were the product of the New Jersey Devils
The
and
Utica
the
Devils?
New York
Oh,
Rangers. It was kind of two because
yeah,
the Rochester Americans were
sure.
part of our organization as well.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so I played there, and it was great playing overseas, and to date myself, really, when my first year in Munich, Germany, playing there, the wall came down. So we were like one of the first teams to go into East Germany and play them after all those years of communism. And then when I got back in the States and played in Utica, I had grown up in Hamilton, New York, which was only 30 minutes from Utica. So it was kind of like I was playing in my hometown and playing professionally. And that was a thrill and was really kind of cool from being from that area.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm from Rochester, so I probably
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
you a few times because I used to go out and see the Amerks play the Utica
Hmm.
Devils and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
early
they were one of our affiliates. So some of our guys would go to the Amerks, some would go to the Rangers, some would go to the
yeah.
Devils. It was weird. We were in the Colonial Hockey League at that time. Was
Okay, yeah.
So we were affiliated with probably three different NHL
Oh
teams that
wow.
we would send players to.
I did not know that. So that's that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great, Mike. Now, the Crowns are going with the player coach model, much like last year,
Yeah.
with I believe Greco being that player coach.
Hmm.
similar to last year when it was Jeff Kennedy, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be strictly behind the bench with the Rise in the
Yeah.
traditional sense. Are you surprised by that decision? And what type of advantage do you think it gives you in terms of, um, not playing and actually having more, maybe semblance of control on the bench?
Yeah. So I think that prior to this call, we talked about it. I'm 56, and really what I watched a lot from that year last year with the Crowns and the success they had, and certainly Kennedy these guys are younger, right? Like that's a regulation rink, and really when you get into ball hockey, it isn't like ice hockey in a lot of different ways. One of which is you can maintain your speed. You can be a great skater and maintain your speed and still be older and play well, right? So, I was always a strong skater and had that. In ball hockey, you can't. I mean, you have to run from point
Yeah,
A to point B.
yeah,
That there's no
yeah.
way around it. You can't glide to get more speed. You gotta. That's all you have to do. So, quickly once I saw the rink that they played in up there, I just was like, there's no way I can play at this level that these guys were playing, and that's part two to it is they're playing at a very very high level, very very high speed, and that blew me away too as to wow, like you've got to be in unbelievable shape. You have to be, you can't have problems with your knees and things like that. So so seeing that game, I knew, obviously if they were going to ask me to coach a team like that was, I don't want to be a player coach. I want to strictly coach.
Hmm.
But part two to that is I saw just last year, and again, this is nothing against Kennedy, did an unbelievable job playing and coaching. I just felt that after the success they had, and you see it with a lot of championship teams, that you have a target on your back after you win a championship, and they're going to watch film and they're going to watch everything that you do. So last year I saw it more as an all-star team, right? It was like your typical all-star team that we all did growing up, where you just put the best players, the most talent, you put them out there,
Hmm.
and you play. And we really rose in that aspect. But I just felt this year that once you win a championship like that, everyone's gunning for you. There's a target on your back. They're going to figure out how to kind of beat you, and you have to go to more a systematic way of playing, and you have to move more to the pro game. So, as soon as they asked me to really, when we started out, to coach the Crowns, but it was more or less, let's have an official tryout and do it that way. I quickly said to him, guys, if we're going to do this, let's do it the right way. We have to treat this like a pro organization. Therefore, we have to have a tryout application.
Hmm.
There's going to be lots of things we do. We have to start treating it like a pro organization because we have this momentum, and our youth program's been watching. The parents of the youth program are going to be watching. We want to give these kids a look at, hey, if I stay with the sport and I stay with ball hockey, I can advance and go to a pro team. And
Right,
that's the way
right.
you keep your youth program very solid, because they have a lot of other sports that they're pulling them, that they could easily pull from us. So seeing that success, I said, let's go to this professional model of that's how we're going to do it. And obviously, we every pro team is not made up of an all-star, right? That's why all-star teams never win in the pros, right? When you
Hmm.
see them,
Hmm.
it's you have to have role players. And every team I've ever played on professionally, it's not the best players, it's the guys that can do their role the best,
Yeah,
right? They're specialists. For
yeah.
me, my role playing pro was I was very good at faceoffs. I'd win 60% of them. I would kill penalties. I could shadow or shut down the best line and keep them from scoring. I could play really good in my own defensive end. And that's all they wanted from me. That's your role. Just do that role to a science. Here's how many playing minutes you're going to get. If it's 17, 18, 19 minutes a game, and do that. And really that's what pro teams are made up of. They're made up of all these specialists that just focus on their job of what they bring to that team, and it all fits together when you got the right coach and you got the right players. And you'll see it. The teams that lift the Stanley Cup every single year, those teams have the best third and fourth line. That's the
Mhm.
reason they win the
Yeah,
Stanley Cup. They don't win
yeah,
the Stanley. Every team has 6, 8, 9 forwards that are great, right? It's those guys on that third and fourth line that have those roles that come through, right? It's that fourth and fifth, sixth defensemen that are on that team that are shut down guys, stay at home defensemen that can shut down the best players. So
mhm.
um so I kind of saw that light and just said, listen, we've got to build these teams. We've got two. We were going to start with one. We got to build them around that model, and that's really what I want to bring and want to do. And the good news was that Josh really, in the folks that were in that decision saw that and said, yeah, you're right. This is the direction we should go. So that's really kind of how it really started from that standpoint. How we got to two teams was, we had unfortunately had a team that pulled out of the tier 3 in Carolina. I just didn't think it was smart to have three teams. We were going to lose momentum from the previous year.
Right.
And I was a huge believer of playing with you, Mark, and pickup and seeing what we had in pickup, seeing what we had in the A and B leagues, and just players around that. I was like, guys, we have two teams deep of great players, and especially more importantly, role players that we can assemble and have two dynamite teams. And I think it would be a huge step for the organization in the CSHL from a standpoint of we'll make the whole organization better this year in all aspects, if we do it. And we'll see what next year brings. But if we do that this year, you guys are going to see how much better everybody gets. And the better everybody gets, the more we're going to attract to the CSHL and find other people that just haven't found us yet. You're going to see
Yeah,
our pickup games are going to be much better.
absolutely.
We'll always have enough players, right, for
Exactly.
those.
Yeah,
We'll have more females that are going to get into the game
absolutely.
and want to play, and it's just going to make the whole organization better. And ultimately, what we're looking for here is we're looking for somebody with a lot of money that can help us build our own facility and go to 2, 3 rinks. The same thing that we saw up in New Jersey when we went to the national championship.
Absolutely. Mike, I was out there for one of the tryouts in mid-December,
Yeah.
and it was great to see a lot
Mm.
of the guys trying out that maybe had never tried out before for this, and I saw the push-ups and I saw a lot of the encouragement that was going on, and it was very impressive. Tell me about what this team can expect from you and your coaching staff.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one thing when you get into these tryouts, you're trying to see what you have, right? You're trying to get an analysis on the talent you have, the players, maybe particular roles they can play. But the most important thing is you have to, all my drills and everything that I coach, and again, isn't coming from me. This is coming from me playing pro and seeing everything, is you have to do drills that emulate what's going to happen in a game,
Mhm.
because that's the only way that the brain and your hand-eye coordination and everything else can get to that speed. Because anytime you get into any game, ice hockey, ball hockey, street hockey, and you play it at a high level like these guys are playing, everything moves faster. You have a very limited amount of time to react and make reactions and have to do things. So all my drills, everything we do is always some orientation of the game. And then part two to that is your players have to trust, like you'll hear me say a lot of defensemen, I want you taking shots and not looking down at the ball. Like you may whiff, you may not see it, but the sooner you can get into that habit of
Yeah,
taking shots with your head up and looking around, it's going to make you a better player. But you got to trust the process, and you have to be able to to practice that, because that's the only way you're going to do it at the level of in the speed that you're going to have to do it in a game. So getting those guys to buy into the drills, telling them really these are the reasons we're doing the drills. This is what we're working on. This is what I want to see you do. You'll see when I start out drills, it's always let's start at 80% and kind of build up to 100%, right? Because you got to let them adapt to the drill. All my drills, I have at least 3 or 4 different things you got to think about while you're performing it. It's not ever just going to be a standing still shot. That's all you're doing, because that never happens in a game. I could tell you when I played pro, I never took a slap shot. I don't think I took one in 4 years, because you just have no time to take a slap shot, right? I was a center and a forward, and you just never do. So you've got to do things at quick speeds and do them like you would do them in a game. And that's really, I think the guys, that's an adjustment for them, because they're not used to it. They haven't seen that. They're not sure, but they will become better players because of it.
Absolutely. Tell me about this roster. Can you share a little bit about this roster?
Yeah. So, we've got right now, we're going to carry 25 of those. And the rule is in the RBHL is you can have 25. You can interchange them however they want. You'll have a minimum amount. I think it's 3 games that they're going to have to play to be able to play in the playoffs. 3 of those 25 are goalies. I'm a big believer in. I'm not a one goalie guy, right? I think that part of the regular season is your goalie's getting playing time and trying to figure out who's going to rise to the top and get the number 1 spot versus second and third. So that's really what the roster is comprised of. I think currently right now I've got 7 defensemen listed, and what's that leave? 18 or so forwards, 17 or so forwards. We do have some interchangeable parts on defense versus forwards. So, I'll challenge and move some guys up to see how they intertwine really with the rest of the guys up there and a couple guys back. And really the formula that I use is trying to figure out combinations of guys that are going to work together, but not only that, play a role on this team or what their role is going to be. So normally in most lines, it's, I try to figure out, who's really a pretty good sniper that can shoot the ball really well. Who's a good setup guy that can pass the ball well, can hold it a while, can draw guys to him and really get it to that sniper. And then the third is who's going to be my emergency valve. They'll be a good offensive player, but they got to be the first guy back and be really good in their defensive zone and be able to cover, because the other 2 guys might have got exploited or got caught up. So looking for those combos is what we're going to be, looking for in our first practice Saturday. There is no science to it. There's no methodology to it. It's kind of mixing guys and seeing really how they work together and they move the puck and how they do things out there. I'm a big believer in, the most dangerous guy is the guy without the puck. It's the guy that can get to open ice and buy himself time 2, 3, 4 seconds. So when he gets the puck, he's a sniper. He can put it in the net. So, we've got probably 5 or 6 really good shooters that I would call snipers. Again, we got probably at least that I think are really good stick handling guys that can distribute the ball really well, can pass really well, receive it really well. They got an eye for what they see on the ice and where they are. And then I got a whole bunch of guys that I know that I can mold into really good defensive forwards that are going to be that first guy back. And again, this in this game, it's how many pucks you keep out of your net versus how many you put in there. So you kind of build from that goal mouth out and really find the guys that are going to fit in well, and hopefully cover the rink well from a standpoint of what we're going to do systematically.
Can you share some of the names that you are talking about on your roster?
Yeah, so I think that anytime you get a guy like I would say Bobby Arcus is pretty new to the CSHL, and I think he came in B League and he was just a beast, and you
Yeah,
see him now in A League, he's just a beast out there.
yeah,
He's a young guy that just is all over the place. That's going to be really good. He'll fit in any kind of role you want to put him in. Um, when you get big centers like Mike Campbell that typically now that we moved to playing Sundays couldn't play because of NASCAR and his job. He's really tall, really big. It's hard to defend him. He's got a long reach. He's really, really good around the net and behind the net and holding on to the ball. He's a sniper. Q, Quentin was really, really good with that Crowns team last year. Probably a guy that got the most shots. Um, was very fast. He can get open, but he's a guy you got to feed, right? So we got to feed him the puck. He's a guy that will get open and is going to hold on to it for a while, and he'll score a bunch of goals for us. Kevin Helinski is really,
oh,
really big in the middle. Another
yes,
really good center that takes up a lot of room, wins draws. Is great in front of the net, and he's got a really, really good lungs, man. He can run for
oh
a
yeah,
while. um, Matt Henry was on that team.
mhm.
Again, a guy that I wouldn't say moves slow, moves fast. He moves with authority and kind of knows what he's doing. Always has his head up. I mean, that's one thing with Matt Henry is he's never looking down at the ball, so he sees the ice really well, or the rink really well. We picked up Drew Kaswikis that again brings a lot of energy to the game, has a really, really good shot, is very vocal. He's really good with the younger guys. Um, those are kind of the guys that we looked. Oh, Zach. Zach is I play with him on Mike Campbell's team. One of the best. I describe him as an Adam Oates type guy, right? So he's a guy that will be with one of those snipers that can hold the puck, stick handle, is really good, real shifty. He can score himself, but he can set guys up. And then I go with some of our younger guys that I know will be great role players for us. Are of course, I got to brag on my two sons. They'll do
Absolutely,
whatever it takes. They're going to have a lot of speed. Vinny, who you see
yes,
him in pickup,
yes,
he's got so much speed, so much endurance,
absolutely.
a love for the game. He wants to learn it. He wants, he says, I want to be just like Josh Greco. He'll do
He's de
whatever.
he's
Um,
developing very nicely.
Chris Ward, I think, is a big presence that, I think once we get into the physical game up in that big rink, his game will kind of come out because he
Well,
plays that with a little bit of edge, and
he
he's,
does.
he's a good sniper, and he can
Yeah,
kind of he can play that tough game. He can be that guy that gets under your skin. You kind of
mhm,
hate to play against.
exactly.
Um, I'm leaving a lot of Chetta. Chetta's another guy that's a real
Absolutely.
good stick handler that
Yes.
has a good shot. Kind of know. I think he just working on him with direction of where to go and just setting some systems up. I think he's going to fit in great. So our roster's just built of those guys up front. You got both Hotchners, Jeremy and
Yeah,
John. I mean, John can
exactly.
play defense, but
Yeah,
also can be such a weapon up front.
definitely.
And Jeremy, his brother, he's a big, tall kid that has good skills that just needs to be taught. I just think he hasn't had systems, and I think he'll thrive kind of in what we're doing. And then, when you look at our back end, that's really where we're poised with all our experience, right? We've got our older guys back there, but they're experienced guys. When you're talking about Imran, and you got Joe Petrolich, you got
Yeah,
Rich playing defense, you've
yeah.
got Tommy Knox, who's really big, tough, physical, blocks a lot of shots, a guy that that could play up and play back, but he always plays that physical game, and he's a great shot blocker. So we've got a lot of guys that we can interchange. You know, we like I said, Drew Kaswikis can play back. He can play up. Jonathan Hotchner can play back. He can play up. Jeremy, his brother, can play back and play up. I think that it's going to take a lot of just kind of figuring out where the right roles are for the guys we have. Having our guys have an open mind as to we're going to try in a lot of different roles, and we've got some time to figure this out and who goes where. But we've got a really, really deep roster. I'm really excited about it. I know the coaches are excited about it, and everyone's kind of anxious to get started.
That's great. And May 6th is an important date because that is a exhibition Saturday.
Yeah.
In which the Rise will be playing against um, the Crowns over at Valentine. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's a big date. You know, we want that circled. We'll talk about this Saturday at our first practice with both teams. You know, that's the rink that we're practicing in here prior to we start the season. And you know, it's a great facility. I think that what we want to build for that day and that game is we really want to highlight really where we've come as an organization, but also really target in getting as many people there that haven't heard about the CSHL, that have no idea about us, that there's so many transplants from the north that, you know, that grew up going out in the yard and playing street hockey and playing ball hockey. What street hockey is really ball hockey, and in doing that, and they just haven't found us yet. But number two with that is we need a facility. We need a full-time property where 2 or 3 rinks. We're growing at a crazy rate, and you know, we really want a place that we can call home, that we can develop for the future. Maybe host tournaments and whatnot here, and really grow the program from, you know, I would say right now that, you know, with the A and B leagues and in our pickup in our youth program, I mean, we probably have 100 people in that. You know, we really want to double that and grow that to 200. So we need a facility that definitely can handle that, and can handle all the, you know, because then that just opens up more pickup times and more times that roller hockey that they just started in the CSHL, where we have a roller hockey league now that will grow. So we need that individual or that company or that person that maybe an elderly person that says, hey, I want a legacy for myself. I want to donate some money and some land and build this thing. And you know, that's really where we are right now. We need that because, you know, really with what we have, it's great and we make the best of what we have, but we just got to have a facility to grow.
Yeah, totally. And I know that's in the works.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next 6 months, 9 months, or a year, we'll have something more concrete. But for now, you know, there is something to be said for a team that it was put together in almost overnight last year, playing the tennis court, and won the whole thing up in New Jersey.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible story, you know, and I even see it being a documentary, to be honest. You know, I'm a dreamer and I look at it that way. But when we went up there to New Jersey, like, then again, these are the things we didn't know we had, right? We have a national ball hockey team for Team USA that got the bronze medal. So it's not hard to see that this possibly could be an Olympic sport, not to mention the success USA has already had in it. And you know, when we went up there, they couldn't believe. I mean, everybody that was in that USA ball hockey league couldn't believe that we did it in our first year. And they really were asking a lot of questions as to, well, you guys must have been practicing and doing it. It was like, no, like we were playing on a tennis court. It started as pickup. And then we just kind of looked around and said, we got a lot of really good players. There's a lot of people from the north that have come down here and started, including the ones that were down here. And why don't we try this? And really, that's what it was. It was a Cinderella story. And the more we told that story up there and really filled them in, the more kind of unbelievable they couldn't believe it. You know, so I knew that we were on the radar after that. That's why I really pushed to be like, guys, we have to run this like a pro organization. That we want it. They're going to be gunning for us. We've got a target on our backs, and we have to show them that this isn't a 1 year and that's it, and we're done. Right? We got to show them that hey, yeah, we took that championship and we look at what we've grown out of it. Look at how many things that we have. Look how many people are in the CSHL down here. Look at how we doubled that. Look at how we have a B league, and soon we'll have a female league, and we'll have all those things that we're going to build out here to the point where people want to get in this program.
Yeah, and it can't be ignored.
Yeah.
Mike, just a few minutes left.
Yeah.
When I sat down with some of the Crowns players last year after they won the championship, they admitted very openly that the competition that they faced in the Carolina division in Raleigh really prepared them for the Mila Cup in New Jersey, but the competition seemed to be a lot better. They were actually surprised when they got to New Jersey that less hitting, a little less strenuous, maybe not less strenuous, but maybe not as physical as what they encountered in Raleigh. Is that surprising?
I would say yes and no. I mean, I did a lot of scouting and watched a lot of things up there. I think that that's just confidence, right? Like it was so difficult against the Raleigh guys, and when you're playing, think of it that way, right? And let me give you a story. Let me relate a story, right? So before we went into East Germany, I talked about I went to Germany, the wall came down, and we were the first kind of team to go in there. Well, under communism, they only allowed two cities to play each other. So Berlin would play, I think it was Chimawa that was up there. So they could only play two teams for 40 years in communism. So think of it like all the family members that were on those two teams, right? And it kind of ran in families, the hatred that they had to hate against each other to go through that. So I relate it that way from a standpoint of an analogy to the Carolina division. It was kind of the same thing, right? You had two Raleigh teams. You had the Charlotte team, the LaGrange team, and another team that it seemed to us like Raleigh just invited us into the league because they thought it would be an easy way to get to New Jersey, right? And whether that was true or not, I don't know, but it seemed that way. And because they had a lot of ego and a lot of confidence, right? So I think that rivalry of the Crowns versus them and really trying to grind it out to get into to go to New Jersey, you got to look at it from that standpoint of we really beat two strong Raleigh teams to do that.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Versus it was just us. And so that by the time we got to New Jersey, the confidence level was very high. And then secondly, how we won that, we won in overtime at 1 a.m. in the morning to go, right? And how we won the game before, it was always like the Crowns were somewhat behind or tied with everything on the line. And really, I call that faith, man. That was the best thing that they had last year that I felt was they were all had faith that they were going to win in the end of the day. And really that's what rang true. And it was the same when we went to New Jersey. We were behind going into the third period and had to come from behind to win the whole thing. So I think they always believed they were going to win. I think that confidence that they got in Raleigh carried up to New Jersey. I don't think the teams are worse up there. I just think that they were so confident playing so well together as a team that they just thought that they were going to win it all, right? And they believed, and it's that faith. So, you could argue with me. I'm sure if we broke down tape and looked at the teams, that's just kind of the draw, though, too, is that when you get up there, there's more teams, and it's kind of like the preliminary rounds of who you draw to get to the finals is kind of what you have. So, so we'll see. I can guarantee you this year that they're gunning for us. I've already watched that Ironman tournament up in Raleigh, and a lot of the players on the both Raleigh teams were there. And I can tell you, they had the look in their eyes like they were extremely upset and angry, and they wanted to prove something. So we're going to have our work cut out. There's no doubt about it.
Mike Steckler of the Rise. Mike, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Wish you nothing but the very best this season. Look forward to seeing you on May 6th in the exhibition and following you because we do our newsletter. It will encompass the two teams, and I'm looking forward to covering that. So good luck to you this season, Mike, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it anytime, and it's going to be a great ride.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.